The other way, the second way I wanted to mention, if you don't start with a unique capability, is that we can start by identifying a consumer need. And this is much more along the lines of what I was taught at P&G and what I'm even more excited to share with you, because it's the kind of thing that you can start to apply as soon as we get off this webinar. And whenever I'm asked by venture capitalists or other investors or aspiring entrepreneurs or especially people in big companies, what's the one piece of advice you could give me that could radically improve my chances of being successful as an entrepreneur or as an innovator in a big company? This is what I tell them. And it's a methodology of research that I call bottom-up research. So one form of research that many of us are familiar with is what I would call top-down research. It's the kind of thing that we're all good at today by just going to Google and looking up some prepackaged secondary information that somebody else has delved into on a primary basis. And that does some good things like helping us to assess total market size, how quickly a market's growing, and some other basic elements that you could tell at a distance. And often when I ask people about research, that's what they describe. And I'm here to say that while that kind of research is certainly necessary, how big is a market, how fast is it growing, who are some potential customers, it's by no means the most important. And the far more important approach to research, and I recognize a couple of people online here who have some P&G experience and some advertising agency experience, and I'm sure you can resonate to this and even teach me something about it. But here's what we're looking for. When we're looking for some place to start, this is the kind of person who we want to identify. Somebody with an unmet need, a pet peeve, somebody who's pissed off about something, unhappy about something in their life, their livelihood, or maybe at their job. And this is the kind of picture I want you to remember. Somebody who's just not very happy. Too often, I think, instead of looking for this kind of person, we fall in love with our own technology or our own proposed solution, and we're a solution looking for a problem. Instead, it's really important to be objective, to relax your biases, and to think about how do we look for somebody who has a problem and then maybe figure out a way we can solve it. The best way I know for doing this came right out of my P&G training in brand management. And it's by doing something that I call bottom-up research. And the way we think about it is, and the way I usually teach it is, it's a methodology of looking for, helping to find and validate unmet needs. Somebody who looks like the person I just showed. And then one other way to think about this, and I didn't really know a lot about anthropology before I taught alongside an anthropologist in Portugal for a summer. We did a class on cultural entrepreneurship. And I learned that anthropologists are exceptional at doing this kind of research. It's what they do every day. They may not think about it as entrepreneurs, but they know they're very good at ethnographically detecting what people are like and maybe unpacking what some of their needs are. The important part of the methodology, and we would need a lot more time in a workshop, we'll certainly cover this, but just very quickly, I always recommend close your mouth. It's really important to observe and to listen, not to pitch. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about from a P&G case. This is a mini case study, not a full-fledged case study along the lines of what we do in a workshop, but the Tide brand was trying to investigate how its packaging was working. And so they asked a lot of people, how do you think our packaging works? And most people were saying just, hey, we're fine with the packaging. This was in the days of cardboard packages of powdered Tide. So they took it a step further to observe people in their own habitats, in their own homes, just like an anthropologist. They saw one woman who had said, sure, come see how I interact with the product in my home, who had said she was perfectly happy with the box of Tide and how the packaging worked. She pulled out the box, the cardboard box, put it on the kitchen counter. And then she pulled open a kitchen drawer, pulled out a very sharp knife, and stabbed it in the side of the box, bore a little hole into the box, and started pouring the powdered laundry detergent into a measuring cup. And the brand people who were observing were horrified. They thought, whoa, what are you doing stabbing the side of our box? You said you were happy with the way the box worked. And she looked at them a little bit confused because she said, I am happy with the way the box works. This is how I've been using Tide for years. And Tide at the time even was a brand that was 20 years old. I'm sorry, 40 years old. And so it had been around a long time. So the point here is that this insight led to the evolution, the invention, the innovation of liquid Tide. And even though P&G is really good at this, even though they were listening very well, it took taking it a step beyond and to observe people in their own environments to discover that people actually could have been interested in something a little bit different and innovative. And that's the kind of insight that I would recommend you look for, whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, an actual entrepreneur, and especially just like P&G, a company that at the time they did this was well over 100 years old and whose product was over 40 years old. My bet is that there's products already in your portfolio that are being used in ways you don't even know. And this kind of insight is not expensive, it's not time-consuming, but it leads to all sorts of really important insights that can help identify that consumer need. And just real quickly, another example from my course at Brown is this line of products called Pre-Mama. And it grew directly out of this bottom-up research approach of students who, 4 guys, by the way, and I say that not to be sexist, but because you'll hear why, who hit an impasse in their business development process, and I sent them to Whole Foods to observe people in the nutrition aisle. And they observed a pretty steady flow of women who were pulling prenatal vitamins off the shelf and looking really unhappy, like that other woman I had showed before. And they told these 4 guys that they have to take prenatal vitamins, but unhappily that the vitamins are big, horse pills, tough to swallow, make them nauseous, make them constipated. And so long story short, from that one insight, they developed a completely new line of prenatal vitamins that are delivered through very tasty powder packets. They have a scientific advisory board. Just like Runa, they've now raised several $1 million. They've now got into, as you see at the top here, a number of all the Target stores across the country, and now they're penetrating other markets throughout the country. So all based on this bottom-up research approach that can help identify needs, and you don't have to be P&G to do that.